Greetings, friend, and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at John chapter 3, verses 28 through 30, comparing our Latin text to our Greek text to see how well the Latin is done. In our previous Contextus rec, we took a look at this, and there are two issues that we ran into. Fuerat should have been a present tense, and then eudais should have been singular, but it's plural here. Not too big of a deal right there or right there, and I don't remember anything else. I've gotten pretty terrible at marking what I should remember. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with this. You, your very own selves, witness to me. Present tense, doubly emphatic right there, unemphatic right there. You, your very own selves, give witness to me. Got present tense. These two words together have been used many times by Jerome to make this word, so they match up, that's good. Got autoi with ipsi, good. Humeis with vos, that's good. Moi with mihi, that's good. Mihi is not particularly more emphatic than moi is. In Latin, as far as I'm aware, doesn't really have an equivalent of emoi, so that's still fits, good. Okay, hoti, that. I said aorist tense, quod dixerim. Now, quod could be the same as hoti. However, based on dixerim being a subjunctive in an indirect question, I treated this as if it were a form of qui qua quod, which would be roughly equivalent to hutos haute tuto. I think hutos. Yeah, I can never remember that. No, tisti, or tisti? Tisti is like aliquis. Okay, whatever it is, I can never remember it. Let's move on. So, this is how I identified it based on the verb, but Greek and Latin, they don't form indirect questions quite the same way. So, that specific type of clause, there's no issue in the difference right there. And this one could still be taken as hoti. And it could be that I was just incorrect in my memory of how exactly the indirect questions work with something like quia or the hoti version of quod. So I'm not going to treat that as an issue. And these, of course, apon and dixerim, they're perfectly fine. Perfect tense, aorist tense, yes. Tenses are as close as Latin can get, and the type of clause is just the way that Latin handles it. Let's move on. Ego eimi, uk, present tense, emphatic. Ego non sum, present tense, emphatic, so that's good. Move on. Ho Christos, the Christ, but Christus, yeah, I'm not really expecting any errors right there, but we've got the emphatic form of but here in the Greek, and we've got the more emphatic, like just I suppose in how Jerome uses it form, for something like de. Do we have a de in here? Yeah, we've got a de right there. I would expect an autem for de, because that's what Jerome normally does. So yeah, got some consistency right there. Different form of but in Greek requires a different form in Latin. Good job, Jerome. Hoti quia, those two are the equivalents, so that's good. Sent, aorist passive participle with a form of eimi, and then we've got misus sum, which is misus by itself is technically also a passive participle of the perfect tense. So with sum, right there, and eimi, these two I think are equivalent. In this case, it looks more like Greek is doing something that Latin normally does, but it's probably just something that I don't remember from my own Greek. Because this is a paraphrastic phrase, or it could be a paraphrastic phrase, exactly like that one is. Moving on, empros then before ekenos, the further away that one. Ante before illum, the further away that one, so that's good. If we had hutos or autos, whichever of the two it is, instead of ekenu, that would mean that he's closer. That would be the equivalent of the word this in English, whereas ekenos is the equivalent of that in English, showing a further object. Likewise, in Latin, if we had hunc instead of our illum right here, hunc would refer to this closer one, whereas illum refers to that further one, so that's good. Moving on to 29. The one having, we've got a present active participle, tain num thein with a direct object. who has present tense? The bride. So we've got bride and bride. That's good. Present tense and present tense. We've got a relative clause here and a sort of relative clause with a participle right here. So those are fine. They work together well. Okay. Esti present tense. Bridegroom est sponsus. Good. And the friend of the bridegroom. But friend of bridegroom, autem with de, that's good. The having stood, perfect active participle, and present active participle, hearing. Qui, ho, good. Stands, present active indicative, and present or perfect indicative. So since akuon is present tense, we should treat audit also as present tense, not perfect tense. All right, and while Greek has participles here, since Latin is using a not an indirect statement, a relative clause to say the same thing, that's how Latin would work. It could technically use participles as well, but that would be a bit unusual. And honestly, that ho right there, that article or that relative pronoun in the Greek is a little bit unusual with these participles. I don't think it is necessary. However, John could be using it here for emphasis. He could be using it here for proper articulation. So I don't see an issue between the Latin and the Greek for that. This is perfect tense, but it's being used as a perfect present tense. So it's got action that started in the past and has effect until now. So stat is actually a perfectly fine use for Jerome, fine form for Jerome to put stat in. He could have done statit if he wanted to match the perfect. However, Jerome is just clearly showing us that he takes this as a perfect present tense, which is how I would have taken it myself. So it could be that both Jerome and I are wrong here, but I don't think so. Let's move on. Okay. Computer in my way. That and view. Okay. Where were we? Rejoices with joy. Present tense with joy, good. Diatein phonein, through the voice or because of the voice or sound. Propter, on account of voice, so Jerome is clearly going with because of, which frankly makes more sense anyway, so that's good. Of bridegroom, so far so good. Haute un he cara he me peplerotai. We've got a perfect tense, passive, or has been filled, singular joy, therefore. Ergo, un, good. Hoc, aute, good. Gaudium, cara, meum, eme. This one is emphatic. So Latin doesn't have a way of making meum there emphatic, so it can't quite catch that same idea. Impletum, perfect passive indicative. To match perfect passive indicative, so that's very good. Then to 30, day, the divine day as it's called, third singular present active indicative. It is necessary indirect statement for that one to increase. Third singular present active indicative, another divine, except this time it's the divine aportet. That one, accusative subject, that further one, good. Present active infinitive, and this one is a auxano. This one I believe is also a present active infinitive, which I realized that we never parsed. What's wrong with us? So these two, they seem to fit. Emphatic emi, can't do emphasis in Latin there unfortunately. De autem, so that's good. Present passive infinitive and present passive infinitive of elatusthai, to make less, to decrease, to diminish, to decrease. So, as we take a look at this Latin here on this page, I can spot 0 errors, 0 things that the Latin could do to be closer to the Greek and yet still remain faithful to how Latin actually functions. So this is fantastic.
So while editing this video, I noticed that there was an error in the latter half, which is why I'm re-recording this part right here. That actually has to do with this. in my initial review of verses 28 through 30, I forgot that we checked the Nessel-Allen for this to see if there was an alternate reading that explained why the Latin for verse 25 had plural Jews rather than singular Jews. And it turns out that there was, and I just forgot about it. So I need to reevaluate how I would make up my completely made up grade for this section. Originally I was going to do A- because of the two issues right there, but since there's actually only one based on the texts available to Jerome, I'm going to say that more proper grade for this, my more completely proper made up grade, is going to be just a solid A. And there we have it. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope taking a look at this has been helpful for you, and I hope that you have a very good day. Farewell.
Hey, not asleep yet? That's okay. I've got tons of other equally sleep-inducing videos for you to watch. Check them out.